A rising tide lifts all boats. She's trying to be the rising tide that lifts the boats. And there were sisters resentful of her. The more we can appreciate that, highlight that, talk about that, I think it's very important. I have to continue to try to change that. Distant and dismissive of her, no matter how much they try to deny it. There was resentment towards her. And here's why I said it was stupid. You would hope it would earn, but clearly things are on an upward trending trajectory. It's improving, and she has everything to do with it.
As the cheers fade and the cameras drift elsewhere, the WNBA is staring at the cold reality it hoped to avoid. Without Caitlin, the league isn't just quieter, it's exposed. And if they don't course correct fast, this golden era may end before it ever truly began. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Unquestionably, the spotlight quickly fades when Caitlin Clark is not on the court, regardless of whether her absence is due to injury, rest, or internal strife. Once full arenas now have more empty rows, ticket resales have cooled, and viewership has decreased. The league that was unable to stop promoting her is now fighting to stay afloat without her. Additionally, fans are beginning to pose the risky query. What would happen if Caitlin turned out to be the answer on which the WNBA placed all of its bets? Clark had an absolutely enthralling brief time on the hardwood. She played with an edge that commanded attention, made logo threes with ease, and had a flair that was reminiscent of NBA great. However, the show was more important than her game. Everywhere she went, the cameras followed. Endorsements and interviews. Caitlin was the center of attention. And although that level of publicity ought to have boosted the league overall, it revealed a concerning reality. The WNBA lacked the solid basis necessary to support her notoriety.
That's it. Caitlin Clark hasn't spoken against anybody. She hasn't assisted in denying anybody else the privileges they deserve. If anything, she's tried to provide assistance. Be resentful of the system. Be resentful of the folks, primarily the white folks, who basically disenfranchised y'all all of these years before she came along. And people were resenting her for it, like she was the cause of the problems that they had for the lack of recognition. No, she just happened to be born white.
Fans turned out when Caitlin sat out instead, then switching to other celebrities. When Caitlin wasn't playing, the league's infrastructure wasn't prepared to handle the surge of new viewers or provide them with incentives to stick around. Overnight, social media participation fell. After weeks of discussing her every move, even sports talk shows abruptly lost interest. Without Caitlin, the story was lost. Insiders are said to be frustrated behind the scenes. League administrators had warned against placing too much of the league's destiny in the hands of a single player. They cautioned that it was unsustainable, that it would overburden Clark, and that it would incite animosity in the locker rooms. These worries are now being expressed in real time. On the court, teammates have displayed obvious tension. While some veterans feel forgotten, others feel overshadowed. Additionally, an increasing number of supporters are claiming that the league is handling the situation poorly. The WNBA has also not been exempt from the impact. According to reports, sponsors are reviewing their pledges, many of whom signed on solely because of Clark's coming.
You see why I said that she should have been on Team USA? You see why I had to go off on the likes of Cheryl Swoops and others who were clearly in her success this year? Here's a passage from the article in Times Magazine. Quote, "I want to say I've earned every single thing. The more we can elevate black women, that's going to be a beautiful thing," end quote. You see why I had no problem with her being Times Athlete of the Year? Attendance for Indiana Fever games? Are you kidding me? WNBA draft, games on ABC, ESPN, television ratings. She's directly responsible.
Until they see how this plays out, brands that have long-term campaigns planned around her are stepping back. The league is currently on the verge of an identity crisis after experiencing a period of historic momentum. Even worse, Caitlyn's absence has turned into a topic of contention in a wider discussion. The WNBA's other stars, who have dominated the league for years without receiving nearly as much attention, have long been neglected, according to critics. The league may have taken a quick cut to significance rather than pursuing long-term development, and now that Caitlyn is gone, there is a sense of fear. Some contend that the pressure was risky in addition to being unjust to Clark. The WNBA threw her into the deep end and expected her to navigate the league alone instead of easing her in and giving her time to adjust to the toughness and tempo of the professional game. The outcome? A newbie shouldn't have to deal with burnout, criticism, and the spotlight all by themselves. The reaction from fans has been mixed. Many WNBA purists are now attacking the larger system that attempted to turn one player into a golden ticket, while Clark's supporters are understandably outraged. Phrases like "told you so" and "this is why the league needs balance" are common on forums and comment sections. Others are pointing out the unfair treatment of male rookies, pointing out that they are given the opportunity to grow at their own speed, while Clark was thrown into the role of a rescuer before she had ever put on her first pair of professional shoes. It is now up to the WNBA to contain the damage. The timing couldn't be worse as league executives attempt to shift the focus back to established stars and team rivalries. Since the season has already started and the public's focus is dispersing, Clark's absence feels more like a void than a hiccup.
But as a white person, there is privilege. A lot of those players in the league that have been really good have been black players. This league has been built on them. Caitlin Clark, all right? The Indiana Fever star was named Time Magazine's Athlete of the Year earlier this week, and she took time to acknowledge that race played a role. Because when she came into the WNBA, for 22 plus years, they had been flying commercial. They were begging for chartered flights. She arrives there, and 2 weeks later, they got chartered flights. She automatically and instantaneously improved the conditions. Attendance is still lagging. WNBA is still losing money compared to what?
What about Clark herself? She has largely stopped talking. Don't tweet. No interviews, nothing but quiet. It's unclear if that's an indication of discontent or a component of a bigger plan. However, her disappearance feels deafening to a player who was previously unavoidable. On your TV, in your feed, and in every headline. The wider ramifications are difficult to overlook. This could have been a turning point for the WNBA, an opportunity to use Clark's notoriety to create something enduring. However, the WNBA might have sparked a reaction that will be difficult to overcome by failing to plan, share the limelight, and defend the very player they believed would improve the league. Because there will be questions that go beyond a single season if Caitlin Clark is down for an extended amount of time and the league struggles without her. Does the WNBA need the occasional media darling to stay afloat? Or can it stand on its own 2 feet? Is it possible to establish a sustainable ecology in which stars are created rather than borrowed? Above all, will Caitlyn's admirers remain long enough to experience the full potential of the league?